Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Time Mama Tries to Read, and I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to show you my bookshelves and then hopefully show you some a little bit of the unhauling I've done because I've had some questions about it. So I'm doing this with somebody else here, so we'll see how this goes. I relegated one dog to the bedroom because he just won't stop barking, and the other dog is pitter-pattering around, so we'll see how it goes. Right, first off, I'm going to turn the camera around. Okay, so this is kind of, step back, this is kind of one bit, and then it goes round here. There's the TV that keeps Idris and my husband happy, and then there's the rest over there. And then I've got some pictures up on the wall. Anywho, so that's my living room in a nutshell. I have tidied beforehand. It doesn't usually look this tidy. If you think it looks really messy, good God, you should see what it looks like the rest of the time. So this is fiction. Let me climb up on my sofa. We've got lots of gems along here. We've got all of my Kate Atkinsons, which I've still not read. We've got lovely books like the Marlowe Papers by Ros Barber. We got a gorgeous Angela Carter there. So I have got them in alphabetical order. There's my lovely Tirzah that almost made my #1 spot. We've got my Elena Ferrantes there, which I adore. And then we're down into H's. So we've got things like Les Mis, which I almost bought the other day, forgetting I have it. Lots of Emir Humphreys. So he's one of the main people that I did my PhD on, and he's amazing. I might talk about him at some time. Then we've got some more Welsh classics. Can you recognise the type of style from Margaret Evans's one? 2 copies of Ulysses because they differ in the end, and I do love Ulysses. I might have to read that with you guys at some point. We've got all of my D.H. Lawrence's. I also did D.H. Lawrence for my PhD. Some Lessings. I've never read any Lessing. This is my scent burner, which needs cleaning. The Instructions. Love to know if any of you have read this. This is another big book I wouldn't mind doing this year. And then I've got a couple of proof copies, and I've got Night Waking, which I still haven't read. What am I doing? And then down here is my sort of TBR shelf. So you can probably see a few things that I've not talked about yet that I've bought. I've got my Christmas presents. I got my War and Peace. My dad gave me his copy of War and Peace as well, so that I can compare the translations because I'm geeky like that. I've got my little notebooks. I've got then some other books that I'm going to be talking about. I should whiz past them so you don't see them. Lovely little collection of lorries. Then up here, the alphabet continues. I can't reach quite that high, so I'm not going to go through all of those. But fiction then ends roughly here. And then under fiction is poetry. Oh, crikey, I've just hit all the cars. Whoopsie. It's all right. Look, I'll just put that on like that. There we go. Fixed. I know, I'll fix it properly in a minute, darling. Uh-oh, that was a terrible mistake by me. More poetry above the door. My granddad always had shelves above the door in his house, so that was one of my main things. I wanted that when Stephen did these. Then I've got classics up the top and like collected things, so like my romanticism collected, my medieval literature, that kind of stuff. Religion and what have you. Feminism. I really want to talk about this, which I got last year and never put in one of my haul videos, which is a book called Mother Nature about motherhood. It looks awesome, and it's got this amazing cover of a woman holding her baby. That is right up my street, that kind of thing. A bit more feminism down here. My very few graphic novels, very, very few. Feminism all along here. Then we've got Idris's books that he will grow into, which are some of my favourites, and some new ones I've added recently. Weirdly, I don't know how plays has ended up down here. And philosophy's looking very... Oh, this is my dog's bedtime biscuits, because they're posh like that. I'm not sure how philosophy is so small. That's a bit shameful. All of Idris's books. And he has many more in the bedroom. Up here, we kind of have biography. Sort of. Some Alan Bennett in there, which I haven't read. Mao, I've still not read. Arthur Miller, I've still not read. This is a rose that I made for Stephen out of paper, which was for Christmas, when it's got a poem that was read at our wedding, and it's got rose petals from one of my bouquet flowers. More biographies, my Marilyns, my beautiful Marilyns. Oh, look at the cobweb. Oh, that's a big one. Stephen would be mortified. Oh, me when I was little, and my sister, and my dad's hand holding a bat. Try and beat that. And then we've got politics, philosophy, sciencey stuff, history. There's Michelle Obama, who hasn't found a place yet. Kind of weird random stuff. I've got some space, some fossils, quite a few fossil books, my bee books, The Hive. There should be another bee book. I don't know where that's gone. There should be at least 2 more. Maybe they're hiding. And then this is sort of the remnants. This whole shelf area here had my, sort of along this bit, had my Welsh writing in English and my Native American writing. So Welsh writing in English is the discipline of Welsh writers who write in the English language. Very rarely it's in translation from Welsh, because the whole point is they're writing in English in the first place. And then Native American writers as well. And I'm in the transition of moving these into fiction. What's happened? Oh, you need a new video, do you? Hi. So, yeah, we had a little bit of a meltdown situation. It was my fault for kicking the train originally. And then an advert came on YouTube, so never a good thing. So basically, I have at random grabbed a bag of the stuff I've unhauled. So I was going to hope to go through the shelves with you, but I don't think that's going to happen today. So what I did was, in the opinion of... Oh, that's Eddie wanting to come out. In the opinion of Marie Kondo, whose magical art of tidying is kind of like my motto, you're meant to take down all of your books and look at them. So obviously not doing it all at once when you've got as much as me, but taking down a whole shelf and actually physically looking at all the covers and holding each one. I've kind of worked it down to a slightly finer art than that now, so I don't necessarily do that every time, but I would definitely recommend doing that on your first go if that's what you want to do with unhauling. And I did find that it is really true. You find stuff that you didn't know you had and that's so exciting to look at again and hold. And you also realise that there's some stuff in there that you're just never going to read, no matter how cool the book looks. And the other thing that I found really was that I was holding on to a lot of things. When I was in my 20s and I lived on my own through most of my 20s on and off, my books were like my comfort blanket. They were something that I had bought with my money. Every single one represented a choice of who I was. They were an intention. Every single book is an intention. I still believe that. So even though I hadn't read them and I didn't have time to read them, they were still almost like an outward show of who I was. And I used to love it when I lived in my own flats, when someone would come over and they would look at the bookshelves and they would kind of see the person that I felt that I was on the inside, even if I didn't necessarily always show it that well. So there is kind of a bit of a show-offy element to the bookshelves. You know, I was definitely not keeping them under wraps. I carted them around from place to place, so I definitely felt like they were worth holding on to, which is weird then in my 30s that I've started to get rid of them. And part of that was that just having a family, we had so much stuff. As you saw in there, Idris has got tons of toys. All of my books came right down to those bottom shelves that you saw in there. But I had to get rid of shelf after shelf to raise his toys up so they fitted in that room. So part of it was space. Another part of it was an endless fascination for me with people who live with a bare minimum of belongings. So we live quite close to several, in the Gower, which is sort of the area that I live in. There are quite a few, I mean, I keep calling them hippie communes, but they're not really. They're just kind of collections of huts, basically. And they've gone quite posh in recent years, but originally they were holiday huts for people to come sort of post, well, actually the pre-war, and then during the war they were inhabited when people came over from London to escape the bombings and moved out of Swansea centre because of the bombings, because Swansea was very heavily bombed. So they became people's homes. And they're very small and I love them. I love and adore them. Whenever we go on a walk, I love to walk past them. And if I ever want to live like that, I need to have less stuff. I think there's going to be a theme of this throughout this year. I've got a book that I need to talk to you about called Stuffication, which I haven't read yet. So yeah, it's the idea of living with less. Those two things combined. And then the third thing was just also happiness. I'm just really happy. Obviously, I've got anxiety and a whole host of things. My life isn't perfect, but at my core, I'm so happy now. And I don't need that protective barrier of books that I built. That's just a personal thing for me. So with that in mind. So this is a random section of some of the stuff that I pulled out. So at the top, I've got things like Sue Miller, While I Was Gone, which is a 99p Ottakers book. It's almost worth keeping it for that alone. Ottakers did these deals where booksellers would choose a book and then they'd reduce it to 99p as an exclusive sort of recommend. And it does look really good. It's just not something that I don't think I'm going to get round to it. It's about an old friend settles into Joe Becker's hometown 30 years after Joe's best friend was brutally murdered and the fabric of her life begins to unravel. So it's all about going back to the past. So there's some controversial things in here I can actually see already. So I've got Austerlitz by W.G. Sebold. Is that how you say his name? Again, it's a lovely edition. It's a hardback. It's really battered though. It's got tons of foxing, tons of stains. I think it was secondhand when I bought it. I haven't read it in the 15 years that I've owned it, so I need to just let it go. And then if maybe I want to read it in the future, I can buy it again. I have got the proof copy of Curtis Sittenfeld's Prep, which was something extremely dear to me. Prep was one of my life-changing books. I read Curtis Sittenfeld, all of her books. Not very common that I will do that with an author, but I've read all of her stuff. Then I read then I read one about the twins. I can't remember what that was called, and I wasn't massively impressed with that one. Then I read her take on Pride and Prejudice. I can't remember what it was called because I think I've erased it from my mind. I just hated it with a passion. Don't get me started on that book. And I just feel now that I'm not going to read this again. I didn't realise she was so conservative, Curtis Sittenfeld, but now when I look back at the topics of her books, I kind of realised that she was. And she was sharing on Twitter some stuff about how she got her baby to sleep, and it was all like the non-gentle parenting. So I do gentle parenting, and she was obviously like sort of cry it out in betweeny. I don't know, it was picky, it's picky, but I just suddenly felt like I didn't actually get her, and I feel like I can let this go. It's kind of weird, but I can always buy it again. Jane Smiley, 1,000 Acres. Again, I really love this book. It's an awesome book. I just don't think I'm ever going to reread it the way I thought I did at the time. It's got a lot of themes of miscarriage. It's a retelling of King Lear. It's very dark. It's about farming. It's about the death of farming. It's about sort of kind of like a paralysis of nature, and certainly infertility as humans and as the natural world. And there's loads of themes going on. It is really good. I just don't think I'm going to read it again. And these are controversial choices because I've now whittled my collection down to like the bare bones. This is really controversial. I've got a couple of Zadie Smiths. So Swing Time I read a couple of years ago. I didn't love it. I kind of felt pressured to love it, and I think I might have even reviewed it on my Instagram, and it was just my private Instagram way before YouTube, and said I liked it, and I actually didn't like it that much. And I wasn't a massive fan of On Beauty either. That's the sort of decision making process here. I don't know, I just can't gel with her. It's not that I don't like the story was really good. It actually told a really interesting story that needed to be told, but I just didn't, I'm not wowed by it the way I always expect to be wowed by Zadie Smith, because everyone else loves her, which is why I'm also getting rid of Zadie Smith's Northwest. And to my shame, this was a free copy from the publisher from when I was a bookseller, and it is actually the real hardback. It's going to go to a charity shop, and it's going to make a charity shop some money. So if it's upsetting you seeing these books, it is going to make a good cause some money. This is Invitation to the Waltz, which is Rosamund Lehman, and I think the only reason I got this was because it was a Virago modern classic. I think it's about a young girl on the threshold of life. It's probably awesome. I'm waiting for you all now to comment on the various books that I have chucked out and say, no, don't do it. If you really feel like that, please do, because this bag hasn't gone yet. So tell me and I'll try and stop myself. Then here we go, Last 100 Days, Patrick McGuinness. This was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. It's a Seren book. Seren are a Welsh publisher, and it was a huge deal in Wales when this made the Booker shortlist. I did read, I mean, I've wrecked it. It's been left in a box in the attic for ages at some point when we moved. So it's got a lot of foxing. I think I read about this far through, and then maybe because of the PhD I didn't finish it, but to be honest, I can't even remember what I read. So, yeah. And then this is the 12 Tribes of Hattie by Ayanna Mathis. And this is a proof copy. It's a portrait of a family hardened and scattered by circumstance. Again, it's probably awesome, but it's a proof copy I've had for, when did this come out? Does it have, sometimes they aren't very clear on the day. 2013. So, you know, I suppose it's not ages, but I have had it for 5 years and I've not read it. So that's kind of how I've done it. There's a dog toy in here as well. That's how I've done it. It's up to you how you do it. That's one bag of about 5 that I've got in the baby room at the moment, that they all need to go. They're a clear out after Christmas. What you may have noticed when I was showing you around that room is that the shelves were, as I say, knocking. They had gaps in them, and that's because I've done this. Because I'm going to buy more, aren't I? So it didn't make sense to have round shelves. It makes sense to have them slightly clear. Anywho, I hope that makes sense. I hope you're not too mad at me. Some of you were really ruthless when I was telling you about how I needed to reduce my TBR. And you were like, yes, you can read X amount of books per year. And yeah, I was quite surprised at how many of you were really like, come on, let's just do this. So I feel justified in my unhauling, and I will let you know how it goes if I do any more. I hope that explains some things, and I will see you soon.